Welcome, everyone, to the December episode of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. Welcome, Archbishop.
Well, it's great to be here in December and so many things happening. We're in the midst of so much activity.
Right now, but we have had quite a year. As you remember, last month we talked about our Holy Father's visit and the Synod, and at the same time that was preparation underway, our Holy Father declared a jubilee year of mercy. And that's our topic for this segment. Particular, what does all that mean for us as a church worldwide and for our church locally? So that's where we want to get started.
Well, thanks, Brian. I know a little later you'll be talking about very specific things, but the good news is that on December 8th, our Holy Father will open the Holy Door.
Yeah.
And that will be a signal for the whole world. And we will, of course, have at least two, I think even more, holy doors that people can walk through within the Archdiocese beginning on the 13th of this month. In many ways, it's the idea of mercy and God's mercy. It's the tenderness of God touching our hearts and converting us to become the people God destines us to be. I mean, it's such a beautiful image. Mercy's not new. Our Holy Father, St. John Paul II, began the whole idea of the Sunday of Divine Mercy, the second Sunday of Easter. But our Holy Father is wanting to make sure that there's not an ear in this world that does not hear that call to mercy. And so this Jubilee year is just perfect.
You know, in the papal bull, that's what they call the document.
Yeah, I love that, isn't it? Yeah.
He uses a phrase I want to use. He says, the Jubilee year is an extraordinary moment of grace and spiritual renewal. That captures it for me.
It does. And you know, in many ways, I can tell you personally, and I hope our viewing audience will feel this, this is not simply a time to rush and be merciful to others. That sounds terrible for me to say. No, it's first a time for me to experience God's mercy. Every one of us needs that gift of God's mercy. We live such hectic, frantic lives. We are under so many pressures. For us, I'll say it, to walk through the holy door of mercy is something you and I need. And as we do that as an archdiocese, in parishes and throughout, it will then motivate us, as it did any encounter with Jesus, to be ambassadors of mercy to others, the corporal works of mercy that you'll be talking about a little later.
Now, before we get into some of the more programmatic things, two things happened as this was announced that I want to connect in here, because one is the year is in part a call to renewal the sacrament of reconciliation. And in that sacrament, our Holy Father also talked earlier this fall on the question of reconciliation and abortion. And that led to lots of questions and confusion. So can you help us with that?
Sure,
first?
I sure can. Well, if you remember, the sin of abortion and the taking of an innocent life was so important in the life of the church that in addition to receiving forgiveness, there was actually a penalty. And the reason for the penalty was simply to make sure everybody was aware of how important
how serious
it is. Now, in the United States, the practice of having a priest, when he forgives a sin, also relieving that penalty, has been the case. That's not been the case everywhere in the world.
Okay.
And so our Holy Father, in saying for this year, throughout the world, you go to any priest for confession. And if you have received an abortion or have participated in helping in some fashion, the mercy of God is there for you. And go, and it's not complicated. And so I think it really has been a gesture of reaching out. And I would say any one of us who said, well, there's something I'm just embarrassed about. I'm not sure I'm embarrassed that I did this, or I'm embarrassed I did this. This is the year to come and receive God's sacramental forgiveness and to be restored to full participation within the church.
A topic for another show could be this too. The whole topic, the other thing that went on was the changes in understanding of nullity of marriage.
Well, in fact, December 8th will be the time in which we institute and begin the process that came from what's called a motu proprio. It just means it was an action of the Holy Father called a gentle judge. And here's what he did. People hear about annulments and they say, oh, is that Catholic divorce? No, it's not Catholic divorce. Or they say, annulments, that's just for the church to get more money. Well, let me explain what we've done. Our Holy Father has basically said that a decree of nullity, which means the church looks back into a marriage and says, were there essential elements that were not present from the beginning? The free consent, the desire and commitment for permanence, for faithfulness, for children. If that was the case, even though it doesn't change the status of the civil marriage, the person was civilly married, of course, that's a fact. It doesn't change the legitimacy of children if they were there. But from the viewpoint of the sacramental marriage, a decree of nullity goes back and says there was something in that lack of intention from the beginning that will allow us to say this marriage did not have the proper elements for a sacramental marriage. If someone has experienced a failed relationship, then they would be able to receive an annulment. And if desired to marry within the church, they would be able to do that or have their marriage blessed if they were married civilly.
It occurs to me that with the Holy Father addressing these two very important, complex, even serious matters of the question of reconciliation and abortion and the question of nullity of marriage, as he introduces the year of mercy, was a way to say, pay attention, church. This is an opportunity to really look deeply at many things.
Yeah,
so
he's saying two things. He's saying, listen, we know we're not changing teaching. These are teachings that come to us from Jesus. But what we are doing is we know that none of us is perfect, and we want to walk with you. We want to walk with people. And so this call to the Jubilee Year of Mercy is a call meant for every person who hears it. And I think you're right, especially I think our Holy Father with the Synod wanted to make sure that we walk with people who have experienced a divorce and have become civilly remarried, and how is it that we can accompany them in a way that doesn't in any way compromise our teaching, but especially walks and sees the goodness of that person.
You know, as always, how does that affect us in all of us everyday life? And so as we enter the Year of Mercy this month, we're going to do a lot of stuff here locally. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Sure, absolutely.
I think we got about 7 different initiatives. This month alone, we're starting a very important one called Catholic Connection.
Yeah, it's good.
This was a take back to something that we did about 15, 16 years ago. Let's reclaim the question of every family. We all have them where family members have become disconnected to the church. Every one of us has friends who we wish were still active and they're not. So Catholic Connection is our first way we're going to practice the Year of Mercy by saying, help us get the names of these people, adults, who are disconnected. And I know the plan is that if you give us their name, you'll send them a letter.
Yeah, we'll reach out.
And you'll
we'll simply say, we're praying for you. Is there a way we can help you?
That invitation, the asking people to provide a name is a prayerful action. We're going to ask people to pray for the person, and if you're willing to give us their name, and then we'll contact them, you'll contact them. And then we're also going to invite them to
listen.
And
no strings attached.
No strings attached.
Right,
no strings attached. Right. Not getting a where have you been letter. Going to get you a we missed you letter.
Right.
Okay. And then we're going to do listening sessions this winter. After the first of the year, we're going to do some sessions around the diocese, many locations, even one focused on our Latino brothers and sisters, one focused on young adults, and all different ones. That if people have a question or concern or a topic they want to raise, we'll have priests and diocesan leaders there to talk to them and answer some of their questions. So the invitation is kind of, first, someone has been praying for you, first message. Second, a message from you of welcome or reconnect. And then the third is, if you want to talk about something, there's some places to do it.
That's a great idea. And I know there are a number of others, but that's a great idea.
Well, that's the first. That's the big one, and that's what we're most funny. One of the things the Holy Father said next March, I think it was the 4th and 5th. He's asked that we have 24 hours for the Lord. So across the Archdiocese, across the world, parishes will be open for a 24-hour period overnight, and invite people to Eucharistic adoration, reconciliation. We're in the process of announcing this month which churches will be open. It won't be all of them, but many, many churches will be open in the same time for us. That 24 hours will be a special
That's going
time.
to coincide with our men's conference too, so I'm really happy that we're going to be participating in that.
So March 4th and 5th. Third thing we're going to do is, you already talked about a little bit of Holy Doors. The Holy See asked every cathedral, and we got 2 in our diocese, but other churches are doing Holy Doors, and those will be opening this month, and people will hear about that in the local parish, and they'll hear about that on the record too. There's going to be an opportunity for corporal works of mercy. You know, this is something we all learn as children, but with the help of Catholic Charities, from maybe April to October, we're going to ask any youth group, any adult group, men's clubs, women's clubs, the Knights of Columbus, anyone who's doing a corporal work of mercy, track it, report it to us, and we're going to create a storyboard, a collection of how are we living the corporal works of mercy. Those are 3 big ones. We're going to look at, we're going to do a life conference next fall. We're going to be doing some adult education opportunities. And a special one, we're going to look for an opportunity for a personal witness where we can say, we as a church need mercy too.
And of course that fits into exactly how we began this conversation, Brian. This is a moment of grace. And I know you mentioned a lot of things. People on our website, people in the record will be able to see the details. But thank you, you've expressed it well, and I'm ready to begin.
Yeah, the Year of Mercy. Thanks for listening to this segment and hearing all about the Year of Mercy. We'll be back in a few minutes with a special guest. Archbishop will be interviewing Dr. Judy Bullock, who's been our Director of the Office of Worship for 20 years. You'll meet Judy and learn about her transition coming up. Thanks for being with us.